I'm Katie Trazo. I'm for the soil because the soil nourishes us.
I'm Jeff Ishii, and welcome to another episode of For the Soil, a conversation. We have a very intriguing guest for you this week, Duron Chavis, who inspires a lot of people involved with Virginia agriculture. He knows a lot about soil health. Without further ado, let's go straight to this week's podcast with Duron Chavis. Welcome, everyone, to For the Soil, a conversation. I'm your host, Jeff Ishii. Joining us today is Eric Benfelt with Virginia Cooperative Extension Community Viability and Mary Sketch Bryant with Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Eric and Mary, we have a very special guest. He is well known in Richmond, Virginia, and I know that all of our listeners will enjoy what he does and will appreciate what he does. Eric, would you introduce our special guest?
Yes, Jeff, we're very pleased to have Duron Chavis with us. Duron is the founder and executive director for Happily Natural Day. And Duron is really a thought leader and activist, educator, urban farmer, and a changemaker in the Greater Richmond area and beyond. And we really look forward to talking and learning from Duron. And most recently, Duron, along with others, have been working on they've also started a racial equity in agriculture lab and really trying to address some systemic issues. And I know Duron looks at holistic solutions, so we look forward to hearing from Duron and learning more about Happily Natural Day and your work, Duron. So welcome.
Yeah. Hey, how y'all doing, man? Thank y'all for having me on the podcast today. I appreciate the invitation.
Duron, if you would share a little bit about your background, what inspired you to get involved with agriculture, horticulture, and farmers markets, community gardens? You're involved in so much. What inspired you?
I got into this work searching for the perfect note. What works? What's the best strategy to address some of these systemic issues around health in the Black community? When I started, we were doing the festival, Happily Natural Day, organizing, bringing together different musicians, activists, scholars, artists. And it was through that space that I met Black farmers who really kind of rooted me in the importance of food security. And it was through that lens that I got involved with the farmers market work. We were connecting those farmers to formerly redline neighborhoods in our community. And it evolved. I mean, I was sitting with these farmers from 2008 to 2014 every summer, 5-6 hours while we sold vegetables to community members. Of course, we're going to have a couple conversations. We talked a lot about the importance of farming, how to farm. And in that space, I started feeling guilty. The farmers I was working with, they were older than me. I mean, at the time, I was like in my 20s. And so these guys in their 60s and 70s, and they're bringing 400 pounds of produce into the city every week. And I'm like, word, okay, well, what happens if this gentleman is no longer able to do that? I just felt like it was imperative for us to make the program more resilient. And then I'll be honest, I was just inspired. I mean, I felt like it was really time, for us to start getting our hands dirty. And so that's kind of how I walked into the space. I mean, we started with the farmers market stuff, evolved into the community garden work. And from there, it evolved into developing community farms, orchards, or even worked at Virginia State University, did the indoor farming piece at the Harding Street Urban Ag Center. I was the inaugural director there when that project took off. And, been training community members, various nonprofits along the way. But now, we are rooted in our own organization that's integrating, the cultural identity piece, social change piece, the public health piece, and the transformation of the built environment, developing public green space that accent and highlight food justice and climate resiliency. So it's been a search for the perfect note, man, just evolving over time, refining, assessing, what's working, and then coming back to implement a new strategy after figuring out what didn't work in its last iteration.
Duron, this focus on intersectionality is where community resilience, equity, landscape resilience all intersect. Where do you see soil health and stewardship of the land and that resilience fitting into that puzzle in the work that you do?
Oh man, it's central. It's the foundation. It's the ground we stand on. I work primarily in the urban space, so it's very important for us to address soil health. I mean, soil fertility for us is the crux. I mean, we're not privileged to be able to have inherited land or pasture land that has had cows grazing on it for 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. Like, we're in smack dab in the middle of a vacant lot, an abandoned piece of property that has some fill soil, might have some topsoil, might have been grass cut for a couple years, so it's really poor. That on top of the fact that it's in the urban space and high concentrations of heavy metals and other types of toxicities that have evolved as a result of the pollutants in the city. Some really messy situations because of the nature of the type of communities that we work in. Formerly redline neighborhoods, communities that Black people and brown people were allotted or marginalized into in the city, oftentimes downwind from industrial plants, former landfills. So these are the spaces where we find the work. This is where we at. So soil health is like, it's in our face, and it's literally creating, the work is creating healthy soil at the same time, the development of these productive landscapes is central to the work. Yeah, that's the intersection. It's like race, environmental justice, soil health, soil fertility. Our day-to-day strategies are like, okay, what are we doing to help mitigate these challenges in any of the spaces that we're dealing with?
And Duron, I know you focus on holistic solutions, and Mary, Jeff, and we talk about health from the soil up, and economics and mitigating the circumstances that you find yourself. What is your vision for a holistic solution?
Yeah. So our work is really, we define it as transforming the built environment. And that's like an easy way of saying that we want to put hands on land and turn that land into an asset for community. While we focus on the urban space, we recognize everybody's not going to be a farmer. So our effort is really to create a commons or make land accessible to community members. If they want to farm, that's great, but we start with the agriculture as a tool for social change, and then connecting systems to that land so that community members can have a thriving life experience that's not just reliance on a food pantry or somebody coming to drop food off for them. The vision, I like to imagine it as this idea where community members are interdependent. Folks are creating products. Folks are selling things, cooking food that's been grown locally right in their backyard or in a lot next to their apartment complex, or the evolution of it looking like people having land for affordable homes, while at the same time they're engaging in the food system in equitable ways. I mean, it could look a lot of different ways. I mean, I try to hold space for people to see themselves inside of the work and be as ambiguous as possible. Instead of trying to say, okay, this is how you fit. Like, nah, I mean, you tell me what you're passionate about. You fit into this if you're imagining any of these issues as important.
We're talking today with Duron Chavis, an urban farmer and community advocate in Richmond, Virginia. And Duron, I do have one question for you. I have to confess, I was doing some research about your work in Richmond, and I did an internet search with your name, and I came across a very interesting headline. And I'm just going to read it to you, and then I want you to tell us the story. The headline reads, "He bought a tractor with the money his mom left him when she died. Then someone stole it." Can you tell us that story?
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, my mother passed in 2021 from breast cancer. It was a really swift experience, kind of found out like 3 months before, and then she was taken from us. But she worked for the federal government for years, her whole life. And so part of my last kind of reasonings with my mom was like, she really was enthralled by the work that we do in community. She really loved it. I mean, she had been away for a long time. And when I say away, like she lived in Cuba, lived in Japan. So she hadn't really put eyes on, the gardens and the spaces we had been developing. But when she came back at the height of COVID, or right before COVID popped off, she spent a lot of time with us in the garden spaces. And my last conversation with my mom was really just like, just keep doing what you're doing, and stay on that path. Keep succeeding is what she said. So when she passed, I took a lot of the inheritance that I received and started making investments in the work. And one of those investments was a tractor. So we went and bought a tractor. First time ever owning, a little utility tractor. So, I mean, I felt like a little kid. We would park the tractor at the orchard. In a cut, I guess, behind one of our mini murals at the space. And one day we come to the garden and the tractor was gone. It was devastating. Really, really, really sad moment. You know what I mean? That somebody decided to take it. But the dope part about it is that our community rallied around us, and supported us in fundraising. And not even a month later, we got a whole nother tractor with that was even better than the first one. I mean, we were able to buy the tractor, got a utility trailer, air tags to keep track of where it is, pallet loader attachment. So it was like we came back better than before. So yeah, man, it was that. Yeah, my mom was really supportive of us, man. She really tried to put us in a good position. And after her passing, we try to honor her memory through the work that we do in community. And yeah, that was an unfortunate situation, but it was also, I'm honored to have the support of our community in such a way that we were able to raise almost $20,000 in like a month to make ourselves whole.
Well, thank you, Duron, for sharing that story. I lost my mother to duodenal cancer, so I can relate to that. And Duron, I also know you relate the wisdom of your mother, the wisdom of the farmers that you worked with, but also how do you integrate music and art as part of this process of change?
Yeah. So I come to this work as a cultural activist, I guess. My orientation was really rooted deeply in Garveyism. That was one of the first organizations that I was blessed to be a part of when I first started community organizing. And I always felt like, and always feel like that, culture, there is no culture without agriculture, right? And agriculture is the root of all cultures across the globe. But the art, the music, the song, the foodways, the fashion, all those are accoutrements that define, heritage and people's lineage, right? And so our work in ag and the development of places is really important for us to intersect, these cultural realities into these spaces, so that the people that we're talking to, the people that have been most marginalized and most disadvantaged by the system, can feel welcomed and feel included and feel as though these spaces are speaking to them. We use the language of street art, murals, particularly at our Sankofa space, to inspire those who come to this space to remember that there are many personas that have come before us that have laid really deep wells of wisdom into this work. People like Fannie Lou Hamer, George Washington Carver. We have a mural of Amilcar Cabral at one of our garden spaces. Amilcar Cabral was a freedom fighter from Guinea-Bissau, who, because of his work, we are very clear on the importance of decolonization. Is idea of like these ideas that colonial powers have imposed upon people of color globally, are antithetical to our existence in many ways, that have created these dichotomies of African and indigenous inferiority to like European ideas, even in the terms of language and, the music and etc. So it's really important for us to like use culture as a tool to insulate communities from these externalized pathogens, right, that have been oppressing folks for millennia. But at the same time, the culture is a healing modality as well, right? And that learning the ways of your ancestors, the ways of those who came before you, particularly Black and Brown people, right? Those lessons, those ways provide reward, gift, jewels, I guess, strategies for resilience moving into the future. So when we do the thing at the garden and we're cover cropping, there's a mural of George Washington Carver there, but we're not just highlighting George Washington Carver on a peanut. We're talking about nitrogen fixation, right? And we're talking about his early rootedness and regenerative agricultural practices, right? That's a cultural representation conversation. It's like, how do we use these images as tools for people to go deeper into the work? It's not just about the environment, right? That it is an environmental response, but we're very like culturally responsive to that. Like, how does your heritage connect to this land? Mm-hmm. How does your heritage connect to these strategies, and who we're speaking to and who we're speaking to?
Duron Chavis, urban farmer and community advocate. Unfortunately, our time is up in this episode, but I want to personally thank you for everything that you do there in Richmond. I know you inspire a lot of people, and thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you for being on our podcast.
Man, this has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you throwing up that headline. That was resonant. I appreciate that a lot, man.
Thank you for joining us. Mary and Eric, we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
And that concludes this episode of For the Soil, a Conversation. This podcast is made possible with funding support from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Agua Fund. Other partners include the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Virginia State University, Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, and partners of the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Views expressed on this podcast are those of each individual guest. To download a copy of this or any other episode, just visit the website forthesoil.org. And if you have a specific question about soil health, contact your local extension office, your local USDA service center, or a soil and water conservation district office. Music used during today's program was provided courtesy of the Flip Charts. All rights reserved. For the Soil, a Conversation is produced by On the Farm Radio in collaboration with Virginia Tech. I'm your host, Jeff Ishii.